All right. Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Chad Bradley. I'm a systems engineer with Agility Communications Group, and I'm going to be doing the Agility Zima reporting webinar today, October 5th, 2016. I will have Scott Klein joining us. He is the Chronicle guru, if you will, and he will be joining us shortly. I want to go over a couple things before we dive right into that. So let's get rolling here. So first and foremost, let's talk about, we have an IP Office 10, Release 10 user group meeting at AgilityCG coming up next Tuesday. If you're in town, that would be great for you to register and show up, and here's the address below. If you go to agilitycg.com, at the bottom of the page, there is an events section. You can click on that event, and then you can register. And then obviously it will give you this Tuesday, October 11th, 2016, from 10 a.m. to 12 noon Central Standard Time. There will be a lunch afterwards. It will be a very informative and deep dive into Release 10, and we will have systems engineers from our support team on hand to answer any specific questions. There'll be a presentation, there'll be introductions, presentations, and then there'll be demos of Release 10 and the new features that are incorporated in Release 10. Here's the address below. Here's the conference room and the address below. If you are in town and you have availability, I recommend doing it. It's something that's very beneficial for our customers. We get to interact directly with them and get direct feedback and answer any questions directly that you may have on the spot. Again, if you have not registered and you are available, please do so. There is several, I believe it's over 40 people that have already registered for it, so it's going to be a packed house, but there's going to be several members of our team, including Aaron's going to be there as well to greet you and answer any questions you may have. So let's move on from there. So let's talk about Zima reporting with Chronicle. A few important questions to ask in regards to your business. You guys have seen this. This was sent out to you. This is what you use to register. Are your employees providing the best possible customer service for your company? Well, to answer the question would be to be able to run reports and be able to provide that answer for yourself. So if you have the ability to, if you have reporting software currently, and many of you may already have that, is it providing you enough detail to where you can drill down in specific scenarios, time frames, and get the cradle-to-grave information that you need for your business? Is it giving you the amount of information that you need to be able to go to your executive leadership team and say, hey, here's some gaps. We need to fill these gaps. We either need to adjust time, hire people, retrain them. This is what we're looking at as far as the information that's being provided to us on how our call center is reacting to our business and our customers. And how do you know? How do you know that? How do you know if you're giving the best customer service? You need to have accurate reporting information. That data needs to be provided to you in a frame that you can understand it and something that you can actually accurately look at on a moment's notice. You know, you're getting phone calls from people that are saying, I'm not able to get through, or I'm in the queue for 35 minutes. Why? You want to be able to know that information. Do you have any call recording? Are you currently recording any of your calls or any reporting whatsoever? If you don't, you're going to really enjoy this presentation from Scott Klein. It's very informative. It's not exactly a deep dive, but he's going to give you an overview that you're totally going to understand, especially if looking at some of the customers that are on as far as the attendees. You're really going to enjoy this. So more importantly, is your current situation with your reporting and your recording, is that effective? Is it effective for you? Is what you have in place currently providing you an effective relationship with your customer service and your call center agents, or any of your customer service agents that are interacting with your customers? Is it effective? Well, I'm going to turn it over to Scott here momentarily, and we'll see if we can answer some of those questions right out of the gate. But I think once we get started with this, Mr. Chronicle, or Chronicle Guru, is going to really drill down and actually give you some information that is going to be very useful. That I know that there's been a lot of questions coming into support about reporting and how do I see this, and I'm looking for more specific information on this. He's going to go through this presentation, and I think he's going to answer a lot of your questions. So, but also at the bottom, or excuse me, on your menu for GoToMeeting or GoToWebinar, you'll have a questions option or menu option. You can click on that, enter in your question, and it'll pop up. I'm going to kind of try to keep, if Scott's going through it and there's a question that we need to interrupt, and he can see it as well, we'll try to answer it on the spot. But if it's something, a little bit more detailed, we'll get to the end and then we'll come back to it and we'll see if we can answer that question a little bit more with in-depth knowledge. So Scott, if you want to jump in here, and I'll make you the presenter and you can take over.
Sounds good. Thank you.
You bet.
All right, so let's just go ahead and make sure that everyone can see my screen. We should be looking at the Chronicall main menu. Is that right? Mouse is moving around.
I got you. Can somebody raise their hand? There you go. Brian sees it. Cool.
Perfect. Okay, great. Well, first of all, I want to thank you guys all for your time for coming out today to look at our award-winning software, which is Chronicall. It hopefully will make this very informative and show you a lot of what it can do for you to help you answer those questions that we were talking about earlier. What kind of experience are callers having into us? Who's answering these phone calls? Why are people calling into us? Are they being attended to? What's being said? There's so much business that happens over the phone that we really need to have that transparency. And in the day and age that we live in with the metrics and data and statistics, we need to have information. So again, as you're talking to people, we need to make these improvements. You can go there with actual data. And with that data, you can see it, you can measure it, you can improve it, and really make the changes to the business that you need to. So one quick thing just want to mention before we get into the actual presentation of Chronicall, with the Release 10 training that Agility is going to be doing. Sounds wonderful. One thing, just a little plug about Chronicall and where we are and how we kind of work with Avaya. We work seamlessly with them. We're one of their premier Dev Connect partners at the highest level you can attain with them. And as Avaya was planning to release their Release 10 of the IP Office, they actually approached us here at Zima Software and said, what can we do? What do you need to make sure that the reporting stays, that your reporting stays intact? How can we make our system play better with Chronicall? So we were very instrumental working with the Avaya engineers to make sure we're getting everything that we need to. And Avaya Release 10, IP Office Release 10 is fairly new. We've been tested and certified on it from the inception of it. Since January earlier this year, we've been able to work on it because we helped develop it. So moving forward, Chronicall is very adapt and flexible on what's going to be coming in the future to make sure that you guys have the best reporting and call data statistics available to you. Okay, so with that being said, let's get into what Chronicall actually is and what it does. And short story, Chronicall is the window to let you see everything that's happening on your phone system. Okay, it's broken into different modules. We have our Chronicall with standard reports. We also have custom reporting capability. We can have our call recording, so if you want to listen to those phone calls and hear actually what's being said. And then we have our real-time application. So we want to be able to look up and see exactly what's happening right this second, right this moment, what's going on. We can go ahead and have wallboards, pop-ups, displays, and again, we'll take a look at all of that as well. But I want to start here at the beginning, Chronicall with standard reports. This is our base module. This is where everything starts off with. And first thing we're going to look at is the reports. Okay, Chronicall out of the box has over 50 different reports that you guys are going to be able to run. Okay, so these reports, we can schedule these to run automatically, or if you want to come in here and run them ad hoc, kind of what we're going to do a little bit today, you can do that as well. We have reports based off of agents or the users on the phone system. We can look at it based off of the groups that you have set up. We can look at them based off of the external number of who's calling in. Or maybe you have multiple ad campaigns and you have different 800 numbers. Which one is being utilized the most? We can go ahead and do that, right? Time intervals. When are we receiving these phone calls? Is it the morning? Is it the afternoon? Do we have people staffed appropriately? All of this information is going to be readily available to you and very easy to run these reports. We select the one we want. And over here on the right is going to be a preview of the report that we're going to get. So our agent call summary is going to show us the number of inbound, outbound, internal, and total calls, how many were answered, how many were missed, the total and average talking duration for the users that we select. So all we have to do then is come down here and fill out just a little bit of criteria. The first is the time frame. When do we want to report? So far today, this week, month to date. We can go back, if we've had Chronicle installed for a long time, we can go back earlier in the year to see how things are doing. Chronicle is going to keep that call information. Okay, we can then go through and select what users we want to be able to report on. And Chronicle, during the install, just pulls all of the users as well as all of the groups from your phone system, how they're set up. So you just come through and you get to select who you actually want to report on. Okay, you can save that as a filter. So if you have different groups, different users, different people that you want to run on, makes it very easy to switch back and forth a large list of individuals instead of having to select them every time. Okay. So once we have the time frame, the users, we can also come in and add charts and graphs. And I absolutely love these because it just helps you see where things stand out. Okay. Is somebody higher or lower than the others? Where's the biggest piece of the pie? It just visually helps things stand out a little bit to you. Okay. So once we have those in place, we just tell it to run the report. And we have a couple different formats that we can do. PDF, an Excel spreadsheet. So if you want to run it in Excel and do some pivot tables or work your formulas, whatever you want to, you can do that. You can also do a HTML or CSV. So we'll go ahead and run this in a PDF and just let this pop up there. Okay. Again, just takes 2 seconds there. And now we have our report. Instead of the preview, these are the actual numbers for the users. So we can see that the time frame, the report, and on the top of all of our reports, we're going to put the totals. So if you run a report that's multiple pages, you don't need to go down to the bottom. You know right here on top what you're expecting to look at. 293 inbound phone calls, 452 outbound. We missed 5 of the 293. So that's okay, right? Average talking duration. What's the average time we're spending on the phone? So we can break this down and see if somebody's spending too much time on the phone, whatever the case may be. So with the totals in mind, coming down to actually read the report, Adriana, 9 inbound phone calls, made 13 outbound, had 5 internal calls for a total of 27. She answered 9 of her 9 inbound, didn't miss any, talked for a total of 36 minutes, average talk time of 131. Okay, so we can see that for all of our users. We can go through the table, or again, the charts and graphs. We'll see if we can make that a little bigger, okay, just in case you couldn't see it. But this is why I love it, because on the inbound phone calls, we can look at the table, and that's good. But very quickly, I can see we have 2 standout performers. Okay, Sarah West, number 1, she's taking almost 100 phone calls, where Brett, David, Andrew, they didn't even hit 10. Okay, so she's doing 10 times the amount of work, 5 times the amount of work here. On the outbound phone calls, we really only have 1, 2, 3, 4 people making outbound phone calls, and Tyler Perez making nearly 30% of them. Okay, on the missed phone calls, well, so far it's just one person, Tyler Perez. Okay, and he missed 5, although we did make 30% of all the outbound, so maybe it's a wash, or maybe we need to address it. Maybe we have it set up wrong. Maybe we have people who are dodging phone calls. But we can see exactly who's being productive, who's being a good employee, who's answering these phone calls, how are they doing right here. Okay, so the summary is an absolutely wonderful place to go ahead and get started with. If we want to drill down, we can do that too. Okay, we can come in the report above this. This is our agent calls. And this is, instead of showing us a summary, we can run this, and I have the criteria already put in here, so we'll just run this real quick. But this will show us in detail every single one of those agents' calls. So here we had David. We can see he had 7 phone calls, 3 inbound, 3 outbound. And we can see right here, here's the inbound phone call that came in from Salt Lake City. Here's the outbound calls that he made. It lasted, 1 minute, 56 seconds. He answered it. The call lasted 9:25. He spoke for 2 minutes of that phone call. Okay, so we can come down and drill down to see those individuals, and in just a second we'll go take a look at our cradle to grave to show you how much more we can drill down on that as well. Okay, but with these reports, just a couple other ones that I like to run to have this, again, group information. How are calls coming into the group, who's answering, who's attending those phone calls, how many are being overflowed, what percentages are we missing. We can see that very quickly, very easily to see that on a group level. Time intervals. When are we receiving these phone calls? A lot of questions come up to, are we staffed appropriately? Do we have enough people on the phone calls? What about before we open? What about after hours? Are we getting enough calls? Does it justify having somebody on there? Well, this report, instead of looking at those agents that we were looking at, this is going to break it down on hours of the day. Or we can come in and change that to be days of the week or days of the month. So if we want to see is a Thursday busier than a Tuesday or whatever the case may be, we can do that as well. But down here, I like to, again, put that chart on there. It helps make a whole lot of sense that we get the majority of our phone calls first thing in the morning. Plateaus in the afternoon, a little spike, and then starts to drop off. Okay, pretty typical what we would expect to see. But now if I have somebody who needs to go to a dentist appointment or a doctor's appointment or whatever the case may be, should they schedule that first thing in the morning or later in the afternoon? Or if we have people going to lunch, when is it the slowest? When should we be sending people? This is going to help you identify when you're getting these phone calls. Okay, when the calls are coming in, who's answering them? How many are they answering? Are any of them being missed? If we have people who are getting stuck in queue and they hang up or they're on hold for too long, well, we can run our abandoned calls report, and this is great because this will give us essentially a callback list. If somebody called into us, we'll make this a little bigger again, okay? Again, the total's on the top here, but we can see, okay, that Mark, he called in to our appointments group. He was in queue, okay, for 2 minutes and 24 seconds before he hung up. Well, this is great because we can come in here and say, hey, Mark, here's your number. I'm going to give you a call back. I understand you tried to get in touch with us a little bit before we opened, but wanted to make sure that we're serving you the best way possible. What can I help you with? Okay. So hopefully this list isn't very long, okay? Otherwise, we might want to use some of these other reports to find out who's answering, when they're coming in, different things like that. But an absolutely terrific resource to make sure that you're getting the information you want to make those changes to improve business every day. Okay, so the report's absolutely terrific. Let's talk about drilling down even further, and this is where we come into our cradle to grave. And cradle to grave, if you guys haven't heard that term, aren't familiar with it, it really just means that we can see the beginning to the end of every single phone call. Okay, so that's just a timestamp. Over here, we can see when the call starts, when the call ends. We can see what group it comes into, information about the caller, their name, their number, their location, and a lot of this information we've already shown on reports, but this is really where we archive it, right? The duration of the phone call direction, inbound, outbound, or internal. But what makes our cradle to grave different and why Avaya approached us to help with Release 10 is the level of detail that we capture. So again, we want to see, are we providing the best customer service? Well, instead of just seeing how many calls we're answering or missing, let's see exactly what happens on every single one of these phone calls. Here's Nathaniel Myers calling from Salt Lake, spoke to Mario Kelly for 12 minutes. And on the surface, that looks fine. But as we drill down, we can see that he actually spent 5 seconds in the auto attendant, rang the group for 13, spoke with Mario for 133. But then Mario put him on park, which is kind of a group hold, for 3.5 minutes. Well, then now a new person, Cynthia, she's answering, talked for 214. She puts him on hold and transfers him back over to the group. No one's available this time, so he's put in that queue state for a minute. It rings when someone opens up, and it's Mario Kelly again. So they come back here. They talk for another minute and 50 seconds. Mario puts him on park again, this time for 54. Comes back and talks for a third time before finally finishing up the phone call. Okay? So on the surface, all well and good. But as we drill down, and the devil in the details, but we get to see that information, exactly what happened on every single one of these phone calls. Maybe we just need to talk with Mario about what the park button is. Or maybe you should have put him on hold instead of park. Maybe this is a trend for Mario. If that's the case, we can use our filter tool to come in and look up all kinds of information. We can look for a particular agent. We can look up calls for a group. If we have somebody who called in and they have a complaint and say, hey, I was on hold for 10 minutes the other day, and that's just ridiculous. Well, we can come in here and find their phone call and just typing in their phone number, pull that up, and find the times that they called in to us. Okay, there's that Nathaniel Myers again. Called in, we can see the 2 times he called in, 4 seconds that time, 1 minute, 3 minutes, 1 minute there. So that starts to add up a little bit, but there was no single call where they had 10 minutes waiting, right? So now we're not dealing with the he said, she said, I think, I believe. We can see statistically and accurately what really happened. Okay. Also, in Cradle to Grave, we also have the ability where we can add notes. So as we go back and we look at this phone call, I tagged this call as a great training example because there's a lot of details, everything on there. So if I'm coming back here and I want to go ahead and search for those notes I have, I can go ahead and use that search tool to search for those notes inside Cradle to Grave. Okay. So Chronicle with standard reports, from the reporting aspect, the Cradle to Grave, just an absolute tremendous amount of information that you're going to be able to get to find out exactly what's happening, who's answering, who's calling, who's dropping, when's this happening, so that you have that information to make the decisions that you need to. Okay. Chronicle with standard reports, absolutely terrific. I want to jump over custom and get into the recording library real quick because this is where we're going to come into and actually be able to listen to the phone call. Okay, I'm going to move a couple of those columns around here, but if the call is recorded, and we have an absolutely wonderful way to do that, a couple options on how to record the phone call, but we can set it up to record individuals, or we can tell it to record a group. We can select what percentage of calls we want to record of them, 100%, 50%. We just want to spot check of people. We can tell it where to save on the network, how long to keep those recordings, because recordings take up space. But we also compress the recordings down to about 1/10 the size of a WAV file. So we make it extremely efficient to go ahead and keep all of these recordings on here. And once a call gets recorded, okay, and we can do that automatically, like I've been talking about, or if we want to have a manual record option, down here we have this little dock that we can tell it to record from this moment on, or if we're doing manually recording, we have this button right here, which is absolutely wonderful, record call from the beginning. We're already 25 minutes into this phone call. Maybe I said something back at the 10-minute mark that was important, but I can't really remember it right now. Well, if we have our recording, we can go ahead and say, record this call from the beginning. So we're going to grab the entire conversation, not just from this moment. So we can go back and hear what was said, but it's already passed. Okay, so that's the manual recording option. Automatic, manual, however we do it, all of the recordings are going to get associated to the call right here in Cradle to Grave, and all we have to do is hit play. Okay, it opens up its own media player right here within Chronicle that we can play, pause, fast forward, jump to the end. Again, we can add notes about this phone call as we go through it, different things like that. But now we can hear exactly what's being said. Maybe Mario's new and he just got confused, and so he tried to bail out and put it on park and tried to pass the buck, right? Or maybe he said, I'll find that, I'll be right back. Or we can hear, what happened. Maybe the customer's really upset over here. Well, we can listen to that segment, and now we can see and hear at the same time what happened on those. Okay, so the recordings are going to be here in Chronicle. We can also come in and download and keep these recordings, or we can email them as well. So if they need to be shared, you want to send this to a different site, a different manager, supervisor, C-levels, whatever it is, makes it very easy to do that. And again, we have 2 different options, a WAV or a Speaks format. Okay. So recording, I absolutely love it. Training, we bring on these people and we teach them what to do, but now we can actually listen. Are they presenting the message that we want them to? Are they answering questions correctly? Are they, giving real information? Are they making promises that they can't keep? Recording just has a tremendous amount of use to be able to hear what's being said on every single phone call. Okay. So recording, absolutely wonderful. Let's go back to the reporting side and let's talk about a little bit more detailed option we have with our custom reports. Custom reports, like you would probably imagine, it allows you to customize reports. Okay, and we try to make it very easy. You don't need to be a programmer or no code or anything like that. We just have it, a very simple interface to pick and choose what we want to report on. Okay? Is it the individuals? Is it a group? Is it a number? Is it a time? So let's go ahead and select agent, okay, user. What do we want to have? What do we want to see for the users? And unfortunately, I can't make this any bigger. I apologize on that, but we'll kind of talk our way through it. We just have our list of values that we can see right here. So I want to come in and I want to see the total call count. Okay. All right, well, I want to be more specific, and I want to break it down to the average calls per hour. But if you'll notice, we have this whole criteria down here. We can get very, very detailed, very specific on exactly what we're reporting on. Okay, call includes this. It's over this duration. A particular event of hold, for example, is greater than 30 seconds. We want to identify those calls. It was answered, whatever the case may be. This one, I just want to see the inbound. So pretty simple still. Okay, I'm going to rename this inbound per hour. Okay, go ahead and add that on there. Add a few more values. Let's just do a couple other. Let's go ahead and put the outbound call count. Okay, let's add another one, missed calls. Well, we also, because this is kind of new, we're building this report. What does a missed call actually mean? Well, we have our description tab right here, so we can read the definition. Is this what we really want to report on? Do we want to see a missed call or an abandoned phone call? Okay, we can come in and see, it rang their phone, but they didn't talk. Okay, which means that they missed the phone call. Yep, that's exactly what I want to see right there. I want to put that right up next to the inbound calls per hour. Okay, finish that up. Add the different values that I want to see in the summary box up there on the top, and give this a new name, Guru. Okay, finish it up. And now that custom report that we created from scratch is put back in this list just with all the other reports. We can see the preview and then run it just like any other. Okay, so we can create them from scratch, or maybe we really like this agent call summary, but we just don't care about the internal phone calls. Okay, well, instead of recreating the wheel, we can just edit this report and then remove that value. Okay, internal phone calls, let's get rid of it. So again, we don't need a program or code. We just have the list. We can add more things on here, take away. If it's just that one change, really easy. Let's come in and do this. Agility Guru, finish that up. And now that report that we edited, okay, right back here in our list of what we want to do, we can see that change that's been made in there. And another thing we can do with the custom reports, full complete control, is we can add on our logos. We can put in colors and headers and rows and everything that we want to customize the actual appearance of the report. So if you're presenting these, if you ever need to show these off, help to assume ownership and accountability for the numbers and what's happening right here. Very easy to come in and find this report. Let's go back and run this for March 15th that we like to do. Again, I'm just going to load my filter for the agents that I like to run this on. Okay, run it, and there we have our report, okay, customized for us, branded, ready to go, showing us exactly what we want, how we want, when you want to see it. Okay, so custom reports, another great thing with the custom reports is hopefully they're easy enough that you could do. We can also help you with that, but this is something that once you own, you can make as many changes as you want to. You want to play around with it, make some tweaks and adjustments, you can do that. A lot of other systems, very complicated, or maybe it's a cost per change or a cost per report that's done. This is just a one-time thing that you guys have, and you can make as many changes, custom report skins, whatever you want to do with it, you can go ahead and have that complete control over the reports. Okay. All right. This is where I normally say, any questions on anything we've done here, but hopefully you can type those in along as you go. We did have one question, can you monitor multiple phone systems from one dashboard? And hopefully trying to understand the question that yes, Chronicle can monitor multiple locations with just one install. As long as they're networked together, we can go ahead and see that. So if you have 4 different locations, we can install Chronicle once. type in the different addresses, where those different locations are, and we can monitor multiple locations. Okay. So hopefully that clarifies and answers that question. If it's not, go ahead, type that back in, and we can go ahead and address that as well. Okay. Well, to recap, Chronicle with standard reports has the cradle to grave, the ability, the 50-plus reports that we have there, custom reports, that custom reporting ability, the skin, edit, make any type of change you want to the reports, the recording library. We can go ahead and record those phone calls, listen to them, record them automatically, manually, right here, and hear everything that's being said. Okay. All right. Well, let's jump into this last portion, which is going to be everything in real time. This is going to be live. What's happening right this second, and I want to see it. Okay. We have a couple of different ways we can do this, and I'll go ahead and start getting this pulled up. But we have two different modules, a real-time license and an agent dashboard license. And each of these are a per-user license. Okay. And what I mean by that is that depending on who we want to view in real time, we're going to get a license and assign it to that user. Okay. Because if we have a company, let's just say we have a company of 60 people, but we have a small call center of 10 people. I don't need to see all 60 people in real time, okay, accounts payable, shipping, whatever it is. I don't need to see what they're doing. I want to see the call center. So we get those 10 users set up with those licenses, and we can track and see them live, what they're doing, how long they've been doing that for, what's going on, okay? So we have a couple different ways that we can do this. One is with our live column view that we have right here. And this lets us see what they're doing. So whether their phone is ringing, or they're on a phone call, or they're getting a phone call, or if they go on Do Not Disturb, or they're idle, they're getting a voicemail, whatever the case may be, they put somebody on hold, we can look at this board and see and know exactly what our users are doing. Everyone's talking. Oh, Jackie, she's getting a voicemail right now from Shannon Wagner. Okay, David, he's been on D&D for 18, 19, 20 seconds. And you can see this isn't refreshing every 30 seconds, every 10 seconds. This is live, okay, real time. It's happening right now. We can see second by second what our users are doing, what's going on, at a glance. So absolutely terrific to have that visibility, find out what's going on with our users, okay? Now this view, although I love it, it leaves one question. What were they doing, okay? And see, David, he's been on D&D for coming up on 1 minute, but what was he doing before that? Well, this is where we come into our timeline view, and we can see both, real time, what they are doing, and what they have been doing, okay? So we can come in and see that, yes, he's on D&D. Oh, there he is right now. But he was on the phone calls. He was talking. He had a really long phone call right here. And we can zoom out so we can see a greater time frame, and then scroll backwards to see what they have been doing. So if I was sick on Monday, true story, I was. I want to come back and I want to see, well, what happened on Monday while I was gone, okay? Were they taking calls like they were supposed to? Were they doing everything? I can jump to that specific date and time to see that information. Or if I'm in a meeting or I went to lunch and I want to come in and see what they were doing, okay? I can come back and do that very easily. Everything's color-coded. You can change the colors if you want to. And one thing I like to use this view for is to find those abandoned phone calls. So Jackie here, okay, she was on a phone call going back to about top of the hour. She was on a phone call for 15 minutes with Casey Green. And as we zoom in here a little bit, we can see that she was talking, but then she put Casey on hold for 1 minute and 32 seconds, okay? There's a little gap there, and then it goes yellow and then green. Now she's talking with Stephen Dixon. Well, wait a second. What happened to Casey who was on hold? Well, chances are, and we can go back and cradle to grave and view this and run reports on it, but we can see right here that Casey probably got tired of being on hold, so he dropped off, and then Jackie took the next call that was in queue. Okay? So it makes it very easy to find when we have those abandoned phone calls, when people are dropping off, if our hold times are too long, whatever the case may be. Okay? When people are logging in or logging out of a group, we can see that. When they're on D&D, when they come back in D&D, okay, we can go ahead and see all that information live as it's happening. So the agent timeline, absolutely wonderful. We also have a group timeline that lets us see our calls that are in queue. So right here, this top window will show us how many calls we have. So 1, 2, 3, 4 calls. And then down here in the bottom window, we can see how long those calls were in queue. So we can see the longest call was in there for 1.5 minutes, but the average wait time was 1 minute. Okay, started to get a little longer here. We only had 2 calls in queue, but they were there for a while before we finally got out of queue. And we can go ahead and see this live, what's happening. Only 1 call in queue right now, so we can see that growing both longest and average right now. Okay, so if you want to look at just the agent or just the group, we can do that. Or the one that I like the most is our real-time stats. Okay, and this is a wallboard, and we can build and customize this any way that we want to. Okay, put in logos and scrolling marquees and a leaderboard and value boxes or gauges. So right now I can see, okay, my billing queue has somebody who's been there for 1.5 minutes, whereas my main queue has somebody on there for 6 minutes and counting. Okay, well, maybe that's just too much right there. Okay, but now I can see it. We have it. We can make it color-coded so we can see that. We can have it play a sound anytime it crosses those thresholds, so you can hear an alarm or a sound or a ring or something go off. Or we have a number of different alerts and triggers that you can be notified when that happens. Just select the value. Anytime that we have somebody in queue, you know, right now in our billing group, because that seems to be our busiest right there, anytime we have somebody for our max duration that is greater than 2 minutes, I want to go ahead and I want to get a desktop message, I want to get an email alert, or I can get an SMS text message. So if I'm in a meeting, I'm at lunch, I can get a text and I can know that, hey, we have calls in queue that we need to take care of. Okay? So notifications of this, although it's pretty and beautiful and we could look at this all day, Chronicle helps to be able to send out these notifications as well. Okay, so very easy to build these wallboards, and again, we can help with this. But all we have, again, kind of going back to those custom reports, is we have the different values that we can select. It's either going to be a count, how many calls have we connected, how many handled calls, how many people are idle, how many have been presented, how many have we missed, right? A duration, how long have we been talking? How long are people waiting for? How long is that person on D&D? Okay, we can build a formula. So if you guys have like an SLA, a service level agreement, or we want to see a percentages of answered versus presented calls or missed or anything like that, we can just build that right here into the wallboard so we can look up and see it. Or, again, if we want to get very detailed and specific, we can. And we can go ahead and have all this different criteria to show and make sure we're looking at exactly and precisely what we want to see. Okay, the call includes this. I want to see how many calls came into this group but were transferred and are now being talked, but then they ended in hold. Okay, that might be a little bit fine-tuning the thing, but the point is that we could do that. Okay, and we can get very detailed so you can get the specific look, the values that you want to see, and you can have as many of these wallboards as you want to. So kind of going back to the question, can you monitor multiple systems? Okay, you can have system 1 right here. You can have system 2 right here. That's displaying background. Okay, here's our support group. I want to see them specifically. Okay, well, here's our transportation group that we're in charge of. Okay, I want to have a wallboard for them. Or we want to have charts and graphs. And we can have multiple wallboards, put them in full screen mode, have them rotate automatically, okay, every couple seconds, put in charts and graphs, how many agents are available, how many calls in queue, who's answering, who's been idle the longest, what's happening. Any view that we want to see, we can build, customize, so you guys can know exactly what's happening right this second with any of these users. Okay. If you want to adapt and view and monitor and really make sure that you're getting the most of it, the real-time agent's absolutely wonderful to have. And Having one of these leaderboards makes it so much easier to help improve performance. And what we've seen is that when we have customers get this installed and they put up these leaderboards, it becomes a competition. I may want to be in first place, or I may be the type of person that just doesn't want to be on the bottom of the list. But because I can have that transparency, I can have those visual cues, I can see how I'm doing, where I stand in relation with things, and to make sure I can improve my performance. You know, the days of thinking that I could hide and I could get away with things, or I don't really need to perform my best because nobody really knows, they're gone. Because now you know everything. You can see that. You can display it, and you can help people, you know, perform their best and get the most out of them, because you're paying them to be there. We want to make sure that they're doing what you think they're doing and what they're supposed to be doing. They're on task. They're answering calls that are coming in queue. We want to get out of that. Whatever the case may be, you know, real-time statistics are absolutely a wonderful tool to be able to see what's going on. Okay. All right. Again, if you have any questions on this, feel free to type those in, and we can go ahead and look at those. But moving on to our last module, okay, this is going to be our agent dashboard. And our agent dashboard is similar to our real-time stats, but totally different. Okay, and I'll show you what I mean. Instead of logging into Chronicle and having to have this wallboard and it takes up the full screen, and maybe this is great for a supervisor to look at because I can see everybody, but what about me? Okay, how am I doing? I have my goals. I have my numbers I want to hit. How's my performance going through the day? Well, let's build a customizable, personable wallboard or dashboard for each user to put on their own PC. Okay, similar to the real-time stats, we pick what values we want to have on here, but we can go ahead and put that dashboard on each user's PC with the values that they want to see. Okay, so we can see that, oh, no, not on D&D. We can see how many calls we have waiting, how many outbound calls have I made, how many lost calls have we had, what's my talk time been for the day. Any of the values that I want to see, my personal accountability and responsibility for, I can have this here. So as I continue to work and I'm in my system and I'm in my screens and I'm doing my thing, this just takes up a very small amount of real estate, and I can go ahead and see exactly what's happening with the phones, myself, my performance, my group, the calls in queue right here. Okay, it's always in front of me. I can always see that. Okay. Next thing, we've kind of hit on being on D&D. Okay, David Green, he's been on D&D for 10, coming up on 11 minutes. Well, if I'm a supervisor or manager, I want to know why, right? What's he doing for 11 minutes? We're in our peak time. Nobody should be on D&D. Well, one thing that we can do is we can create these D&D reason codes. So when somebody goes on D&D on their phone, I'm going to try to get close to mine, okay? But I'm going to get a pop-up on my screen. There's my D&D button. There it is. Okay? So I hit the button on my phone, and I get the screen pop. And you can see my dashboard. It's counting up how long I've been on D&D. But now I have a reason. Oh, there's another pop-up that we can have. Going back to those alerts and triggers, we have 5 calls in queue. Okay? Well, I should, get off D&D and go back and answer some of those calls, right? But with the D&D, I can come in here, and now, as I'm on D&D for 30 seconds, why? Am I taking a break? Am I going to lunch? Am I doing paperwork? Am I meeting with a client? Am I traveling? Am I out of the office? Am I doing a webinar demo? Am I doing a technical training? Am I on a support call? Whatever the case may be, now we can tag it. So instead of going back and looking at David and thinking, what's he doing? Well, with those agent dashboards and associating a reason code to that, it would say D&D, and then whatever reason he selected. Whether it was break, or he's in a meeting, or there was a family emergency, or had to be rushed to the ER. Whatever reasons you want to put on here, that's up to you. You just build them and assign them to the user that can go ahead and select that. So now when you're getting the reports, you can see how long they've been on D&D, how long they've been logged in and logged out, but also the reason why. Okay, just to make sure that no one's taking an hour and a half lunch and trying to disguise it throughout the course of the day. Okay. Another feature with our agent dashboard are the account codes. I love the account codes. They're my absolute favorite because I think one of the biggest questions that we want to address is, why are people calling us? Okay? Is it that they forgot their password, they couldn't log in online? They want to find out what hours we're open for? Okay? So we can come in and we can create different reasons. Okay? People calling in about our hours. Or, I'm in a hospital, or I'm in a doctor's office, so I have somebody calling in about insurance, or there's a new patient, or someone's calling about shipping, or someone's calling about, a specific product that we sell. Maybe you have a lot of different products, and you want to list them out there so we can break it down to say, okay, we're getting, a car dealership. We're getting 50 calls on trucks. We're getting 200 calls on family sedans, and only 10 on minivans. Okay. Well, people want sedans or SUVs. They don't want the minivan because it looks, whatever. I love my minivan. But anyways, we can start to tag that. So now what happens is when a user makes or receives a phone call, we get a pop-up on our screen. Just happens automatically. We can see the caller ID information. If it's an inbound and it comes in through a group, we'll be able to see what group that comes in through. Okay, so let's see if we can do a few more of these. Okay, there we go. So here we're getting a call from New Jersey, came into our sales group. Why? Okay, sales is a pretty broad area. Well, because they were calling in about getting a free 14-day trial of Chronicle to use in-house. Perfect. Okay, or maybe this is somebody calling from Agility. Okay, well, I can go ahead and tag those calls. So now, again, going back to those reports, I can see that we got 400 phone calls. Well, 30 were from Agility. 30 of them wanted 14-day trials, 10 of them wanted to set up another webinar, whatever the case may be. Now, instead of just looking at the number, we know the reason why. Okay, I was at a conference a couple months ago, and it was an Avaya conference, and the presenter was actually talking about a customer that we were working with, and it was a deli. Okay, soup, sandwiches, lunch hour coming up, and they were getting a lot of complaints in the store that the people weren't taking their orders, and they were always on the phone. And so to help improve customer satisfaction, right, they wanted to improve their business, they needed more information. And so they wanted to find out, why are they on the phones? What are they taking those calls about? So we got them set up with Chronicle, the reports, the dashboards, so they could start to tag in those phone calls that they're getting. And it turned out, after not a very long amount of time, that they found the majority of their phone calls that they were getting were people calling in to find out what is the soup of the day. That's it. Okay? But it takes time the phone's ringing, it's making noise, I'm going to go answer it, answer the question. Yes, there it is. We get another phone call, and you're back and forth to it. So with a little bit of training on that auto attendant message saying, hi, thanks for calling the deli. Our soup of the day is, what sounds good, a creamy tomato and bacon soup. Okay? And so they can go ahead and program that in there, so now the customer is getting the information they want without having to actually talk to somebody, and it solved the problems. Okay, being able to find out why people are calling, I think, is absolutely critical. Okay, so we have that, and then we also have a tool which we call our presence. Okay, and our presence lets us see our other real-time and dashboard users, and I can see what they're doing. So I can see that Mark and Mike, they're logged out for the day. Cabron, he's on D&D. Garrett's on an inbound phone call. I'm on an outbound phone call. I'm also on D&D because I'm doing a webinar, and my account code that I selected when I made this phone call was with Agility. So I can do all that, and let's go ahead and pick on Adam right here and double-click and say, hi, Adam, on a demo. Okay, we have an internal chat as well. So if we want to go ahead and transfer a call, can you take a call? Okay, I can make sure he's at his desk. It looks like he's available. I know Cabron isn't. So I can see, yep, he's available to take a call. Cool. Customer is whatever it is. And that way you just have that improved visibility, that communication between the different agents. Okay, so the agent dashboard just adds really another dimension and a different level, the one that I like the most actually, to the reporting. What or why are we getting these phone calls? Why did you go on D&D? add on that visual management for the user on their own PC. It's something for them to see. I actually work like this all day. I keep my dashboard, I keep my presence open on this screen. I keep my dashboard over here. I work on everything in between. Usually I have to readjust my screen just a little bit to fit that in there. Okay, but I go ahead and do that. So now I know how I'm doing. I can see what everyone else is doing. I can do all my work, and I have all the information readily available to me. Okay, so regardless of what you're looking for, and I understand that we have a lot of different people, a lot of different companies, environments, different things like that, but remember, Chronicle is modular. So maybe we're just looking at, getting some basic reporting to get us off the ground. I really want to be able to drill down. Well, I really want to hear what's being said. Well, we can add on the recording. Being able to customize reports is great for some, maybe not needed for others. We can add that on there. I love having that wallboard. Yes, I absolutely want to see that. Okay, the how and the why, maybe we'll grow into that. We can add that later. That's fine. Chronicle is modular and built to provide the most value, at a high quality for every customer, depending on where you guys are at, what you want to have right here. Right there. Okay. Well, if you have a quick question, and again, hopefully you've been writing those along the way, I'm going to be summarizing and finishing up here. We'll get you out before top of the hour, but if you have a last-minute question you want to type in, just two more things I want to talk about with Chronicle, so get your questions in if you want to. Big question is access. How do we get to Chronicle? Okay. Well, you can open up a web browser like I did, okay, or we have an application that you can install on your desktop called Chronicle Desktop, which will allow you to open up Chronicle through a browserless method, okay. So you just double click on that, it opens up the program, and there we go. And you can see we're here at the login, administrator, and password. One thing that's great about Chronicle is that we can have as many of these user accounts without it being an additional license. It's free. It's just in there for you. But we can create and control as many of these logins as we want to, and we can control what people have access to do, okay? If you're the administrator, you need to be able to get into system settings, great. If you're a manager and you really shouldn't get into system settings, but you want to see the information, great. We can set you up as that. Or maybe we want every user to be able to log in, to run the reports. We want them to see what they want to. Well, we don't want to give them full company access. So Adriana, you can log in and see your information. You can run all the reports you want on yourself and your group. Okay? The recording, you can go ahead and listen to your recordings. You can't download them, and you definitely can't delete them. Same thing with the real time. We're going to give you partial access. You can view the wallboard we want you to see, but you can't make any changes to it. Okay? So again, you can create as many of these user accounts as you want to. It's just part of Chronicle right there, but accessibility, very easy to get into, great to look at, and again, it's going to give you that information. It's going to give you the data. What's really happening? So you can make those business decisions you need to with actual data and statistics instead of guessing, or he said, or she said, or I think, or I feel. Those aren't really the best ways to start off your, back up your business decision. I feel like this. Data, numbers, stats, what's really happening, how can we train, how can we improve, where do we need to improve, how are our improvement efforts going? Now with Chronicle, you have that data, you can get that information to improve business, have the most success possible. Okay? All right, well that is it for me. So let's go ahead and turn it back over to Chad. Are you still there?
I'm here. Yeah, that was outstanding. Thank you very much, Scott. That was very informative. I had a lot of questions as well, but as you kept going, you answered them. So so I don't see any additional questions. So obviously it was pretty thorough, or thorough enough to get some questions that were probably preceding the event, the presentation answered. So well done. That's amazing software. I didn't realize it drilled down that I just got the overview before, so this was very informative for me as well. So that's very cool. That was an awesome, excellent presentation. So I do appreciate that. So I'm going to take control over again and then close this out just to finish up and reiterate a couple of things. And I will just again reiterate the user group that's planned for October 11th, which is next Tuesday, and where the location is. Again, you can go to AgilityCG.com, scroll down, and you will see the events at the bottom. I'll also touch on this as well. Any of your support questions can always be sent to support at AgilityCG.com. If I happen to see it and it's related to Zima, I'll grab it, and anybody that knows what's going on within the support organization knows that I was doing the training today or assisted with the presentation. I didn't actually do any training. I just introduced Chronicle Guru. So
it was a great introduction.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Very well done. Again, I can't emphasize enough how awesome that was, and you've given us so much information to chew on as far as our support organization, and hopefully the customers really liked it as well. I don't imagine it will be difficult to see their responses when they complete the survey that you'll be sent once this is completed. Please complete that. That actually lets us know what information that is you enjoyed, what you didn't enjoy, what you would like to see going forward. There's columns in that survey that or information that you can input in that survey, what you'd like to see going forward. Again, if you have questions and you need Scott's feedback or Zima's feedback on Chronicle, please send us an email to support@agilitycg.com. Don't forget that your support customers get free upgrade licenses. Check out what's coming up at agilitycg.com/events. Again, if you go to our main page and scroll down, there's an events section as well, and support plans. That information is at the bottom as well. Make sure that you have the right support plan in place to support your organization. If there's not any further questions, again, I'm going to say thank you to Scott Klein for joining and providing us an awesome presentation, and I will stop recording now and let you guys have the rest of your day. Thanks for joining, everyone. Take care.
Thanks.